Can you send a copy back?
Say that.
Will you send a copy back of the test?
I will
Okay.
send it to me, so I'll just, you have it, don't you have it as an attachment where you saved
Oh
it,
yeah,
send it to me?
that's yes, sir.
Okay,
I do. Mhm.
okay, I just won't, won't hard to worry about sending it back.
Okay.
Okay, let's get. Okay, share screen. Okay. All right, can you see this slide?
I see the first slide with the GSOP class in there.
Yeah. Okay. We've looked at the W-2 that looks like this before. Has the minister's salary in line or box 1, the housing allowance in box 14, and the state salary amount in box 16. So everything we do, and I meant to send you a file, which we will look at this week and next week. So let me do that real quick. Back where I was. Okay, I've sent you over a file that should be called example 1 minister income.
It came across.
Okay. We have on the next 2 slides, get back up here in the slides. We have on the next 2 slides what you see on that file. His salary is $22,500. His housing allowance, his salary is total salary is $70,000. His housing allowance is $22,500. So his net reportable salary is $47,500. His income from weddings, funerals, etc., is $700. His health insurance is paid by the church at $9,600. I did this back in 2016 when 9,600 was more like a reasonable amount then. Now, $20,000 is not unreasonable for health insurance cost. Business mileage on his own personal vehicle, he put 8,000 miles a year. He spent $750 for dues and subscriptions. He spent $400 for dry cleaning on his suits that he wears in the pulpit. He spent he spent for the business use of his cell phone, $780, and it's used 65% for business use. So the total is more than the 780, but the 65% is $780. He spent $240 for office supplies. He spent $132 for tolls, parking and tolls. He spent $2,100 for meals and entertainment. He had out-of-pocket medical expenses of $1,650. He had home mortgage interest of $10,500. Had real estate taxes of $2,240. He made contributions to the church of $7,500, 10% of his salary, not a little over 10%. Other contributions of $500 and some non-cash contributions of $450. And he paid estimated taxes to the federal of $9,000, to the state of Georgia of $500. He incurred actual expenses for his housing of $22,400, and the fair rental value of his house plus the utilities was $23,000. So I've given you all three of the numbers that we need there to figure out what he has done. So we're talking, as we talked last week about the Decent rule. This is the software, my software, tax software that I use to figure out what the Decent rule means. So his W-2 salary as a minister from Box 1 of Form W-2 is $47,500. His gross income from weddings, baptism, writing, lecturing, etc., from line 1 of Schedule C or CEZ, $700. Both of them came straight off that sheet we had. Now, in my particular software, they divide it up. If the parsonage is if he's living in a house that's provided by the church, they want to know the fair rental value and the utility allowance, the actual expenses for utilities, and then the smaller the allowance or the actual expenses. And then so that's one calculation. In our situation, we're saying that he owns his own house, so he's getting a parsonage or a rental allowance of $22,500, a utility allowance that's stated separately, and we didn't have one stated separately. So its total allowance would be the $22,500. And he's going to bring the other two numbers in that we need to look at. The actual expenses, the $22,400. So if you had actual expenses for utilities, which we didn't, we just took simple way, is included in the actual expenses for the parsonage at $22,400, or the fair rental value of the home plus the cost of utilities. Now, I will say again, the fair rental value there is the fair rental value of the furnished home. So if you're renting one that's furnished, or if you own one, then you got to add back the rental value of what you were furnishing would rent for. So you got 23,000 of the fair rental value of the home, 22,400 as the actual expenses, 22,500 as the housing allowance. Which number would you take and put as housing cost?
22.5.
Nope.
No.
You take the smaller of those three numbers.
Okay.
Which one's smaller?
So it's going to be the 2240. What?
22,400, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's smaller than the housing allowance. If you'd spent 22,600 on actual expenses, his housing allowance would be smaller. So you would take it.
Okay.
So I'd also say if you'd spent 22,600, he should have, for December, when he saw that he was going to spend more than the 22,500, he should have written something to the eldership or the treasurer or whomever to say, I need to up my housing allowance, because he saw that he would see that he was going to exceed what he's in his spending, what his housing allowance was. He didn't want that to be his limiting number, the housing allowance. So the 22,400 is the smaller number. So that's in the tax-free column, column B. And the total column, the 70,700, composed of his 70,000 in salary and $700 that he got from weddings, baptism, funerals, et cetera, et cetera. So then they're going to calculate 22,400 divided by 70,700 and come up with a 31.68%. And what the decent rule says is that 31.68% of his expenses are not allowable. So we go to the second page, the next schedule worksheet, and he has business use of the car for the entire year, 8,000 miles at 54 cents. That was what it was back in 16. For this year, 23, it will be 65.5 times 8,000. Give us a number, which in this case, we used a number of $4,320. His meals and entertainment, which in 16 were only 50% deductible. In 2023 or 2022 would be 100% deductible. So we would have the full 200 there, but only 2022 and 2023 are the odd years. Most every other year, they're only 50% deductible. We have his office expense, $240. His books and subscriptions is $750. His telephone is $780, and his parking and tolls, $132. So we add all those together and we get $7,272. And then we multiply that times 31.68%. So it only gets to deduct $4,968 and $2,304 of that 7,272 is non-deductible. So that's what the decent rule does for us. By the amount of your non-deductible income, housing allowance, you got to figure that same percentage of your expenses as non-deductible. So the next worksheet, now 2018 through 2025, we don't have 2106 expenses. So these would be on Schedule C instead of 2106 expenses. So we take the $4,320 in mileage, the $2,100 in meals and entertainment, the parking and fees, and tolls and transportation, the business expenses not included above, and we come up with all those 7272, but some of them are not going to be deductible, 2,304. So we have the 4,968 as the deductible amount if we have 2106. Now, self-employment income, as we said, decent rule doesn't apply. So you take the W-2 salary as a minister, 47.5. Net profit from Schedule C, which we have a loss on Schedule C, 4,268. And then the parsonage or rental allowance, 22.5. So all that comes back to, added that to the Schedule C and the W-2 income, comes to 65,732. The Schedule C or CEZ expenses allocable to tax-free income, 2,304. And the business expenses not deducted on line 1 or 2 above, they would come back to the 7272. So his self-employment income is 56,156. And that's what we're going to figure his self-employment income on, that number there. So the decent rule, it affects housing, because of housing allowance being non-taxable, it doesn't, you don't get to deduct those costs, those same percentage of costs in expenses. So we take them out, but then we add them back for self-employment tax. So I think that's all. Yep, that's all the questions we had, all the information we had about to try to cover tonight.
Okay.
Any questions?
Could you do me a favor?
Okay.
On the test, I did not write the answers down, the correct answers
Okay.
down. Could you just call those out for me? I can write it down.
Just the ones you missed?
Yes.
Let me stop the recording again. We will cover for next time. Let me get this. For next time, we will have a sample
You already got
of
it.
income tax numbers.
I learned from the medical instructor. So,
And I'm going to give you 4 different examples,
the bacteria is you keep on.
depending on whether he's treated as self-employed or as an employee, and depending on whether he elects out of Social Security or not. So we will have that next time, and we will cover that on the slides and go on from there.
Okay.
Any more questions you got?
No, sir. That will be it.
Okay. We'll see you,
Thank you.
Vincent.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.